right, let's get the spreadsheets out and take a look at what this Jaden McDaniels contract extension means for the future finances of the Wolves. I think that's the biggest question. Hopefully this will help you answer your questions of, now that they signed Jaden McDaniels to a 5-year, $131 million contract extension, who do they have to trade? Well, the answer for now is no one. And the reason for that is because the number that Jaden's contract came in at was cheaper than I thought, at least. So this here is a list of all the players from the last 3 years who have signed a rookie contract extension. A rookie contract extension is a contract you can sign after your 3rd season in the league and before your 4th season in the league. Obviously, that's what McDaniels did, but I ranked them in this order because the cap has been going up over the course of time. So these are ranked in terms of their year 1 percentage of the salary cap. I think that's kind of the best way to line up where Jaden's contract falls in the hierarchy of other rookie contract extensions. People have listened know that I always thought the Mikal Bridges line was kind of the bar here, right? I thought the 4-year, $191 million deal that Bridges signed 2 summers ago is now viewed as such a value around the league that McDaniels' contract extension would for sure be at least this high. And I thought, honestly, probably higher than RJ Barrett here, maybe approaching the Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero numbers, but that's not what happened. And that's why the Wolves are not as dire of a financial situation as maybe we thought they would be after McDaniels signed this contract. I mean, McDaniels starting at, where are we, 22.6 million next season rather than maybe 27 or 30 million makes a pretty big difference for the Wolves, who are obviously above the salary cap for next season, which is estimated at like 142 million here. And they're over the 142 because they have Rudy Gobert on the books for 44 for next season, Cat about 50, Ant for 35.5, and Jaden for 22.5. In total, that's $152 million. So they're over the $142 million cap just to 4 players. Add Naz Reid for $14 million, and you're up to $166 million just to 5 players when the salary cap, again, is 142, and the luxury tax line is 172 here. Let me get this all in the frame here. So the Wolves are for sure over the salary cap team. They're for sure over the luxury tax team for next season. But the number I think we should be looking at is this second apron number. You've heard the term second apron, super tax, whatever. That's projected to be around 190 million. And the Wolves can, with Jaden at this 22.5 number, stay underneath the second apron, but it would come at the cost of needing to let both Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson walk in free agency. Let's just replace them with minimum contracts for next season. Let's do that here. Kyle Anderson, boom. You see this is moving up the space, or the however much salary they have changes based on what I put in here. So if we replace Anderson and Conley with minimum contracts and we remove Troy Brown Jr.'s number from here, you see the Wolves will have some space here below that second apron line, even if we replace all these players with minimum contracts, right? So you let Conley walk, you let Anderson walk, you let Brown walk, you let J-Mac walk, and you fill that up with minimum contracts. Yes, you can be below the second apron there. Frankly, I don't really see them doing that. That would hurt pretty bad to let both Conley and Kyle Anderson walk. I think that might force them to push themselves into the second apron. It will, to keep one of them. And being in the second apron or past the second apron for just 1 year isn't the end of the world, provided your owners are willing to pay that super tax. But from a roster construction standpoint, we hear all these things about the second apron, the super tax, like, oh, you can't sign free agents, can't use the mid-level exception, you can only sign minimum players. limits your ability to trade. Well, I don't think the Wolves are really in a position to have wanted to use the, I mean, obviously, if you could, you would use the mid-level exception, but there's not really room to have done that anyways, even if they had no spending cap. And I don't think it's really a roster that's trying to make a move or needs to make a move there. So for just next season, if the Wolves keep Anderson or Conley or both, they probably aren't really in a big need of needing to add anything else around there. And so whenever people ask me about the second apron, I try to explain it. I send them, where is it? This screenshot. This is probably just a good way. Sirat Sohi wrote this when she was writing about the Bradley Beal deal. I literally have this screenshot, and when people ask me like, what the hell does the second apron mean? I literally send them this screenshot because I think it breaks it down very simplistically in one paragraph. I'll just read it here. Here's a quick overview of the most relevant factors that would be Beal suitors. That would impact would-be Beal suitors. Crossing the first luxury tax apron at $169 million. When she wrote this, it was 169. We're kind of looking at 172 now. That means shrinking your taxpayer mid-level exception from 10 million to 5 million and losing the ability to sign wave players who made more than the mid-level exception. Teams that exceed the second apron at 179.5 million. Again, I think that's going to be closer to 190. Will lose their taxpayer mid-level exception altogether. Can't sign buyout players, can't accept more salary than they send out in a trade, can't aggregate multiple contracts into a trade, and can't trade their first-round pick 7 years into the future. If a team exceeds the second apron twice in 4 years, their pick automatically gets moved to the end of the first round. And I think that is the factor that the Wolves are now looking at. That last bit about being over the second apron twice in 4 years, that's the thing to watch for, because it kind of looks like they will be, right? Like, there isn't really a path to the finances relenting until after the 25-26 season, when Gobert and Reed come off the books. You know, it would be nice to trade one of their first round picks, but in the future, you know, those have been kind of locked up since the Gobert trade. That would be an opportunity to improve the roster. Not the end of the world, but being in the second apron for multiple years, that will lock them out of, that will make it so their pick moves to the end of the first round. And obviously that would be an issue. But I think a takeaway is you can fill this roster up, letting go of Conley and Anderson while, you know, staying under the second apron. And that was the concern, is that wouldn't be the case. However, there is one thing to be a little concerned about here that changes that. If Anthony Edwards makes All-NBA this season, his contract goes from 5 years, $206 million to 5 years, $247 million. And that first year's salary jumps from $35.5 to $42.6. And there we go. We got a problem. There is not a way, if Ant's contract jumps up that much, to be able to stay underneath the second apron. That extra $7 million just kind of does you in. So even if you let Conley walk and you let Anderson walk, you're still going to be a separate apron team, which maybe some team, or second apron team, which maybe some people are like, oh, you're already going to be a second apron team, so like might as well go all in. Like, Ant's numbers bigger, bring back Conley, bring back Anderson. Well, that's not how it works. You know, if it's 10, 15, 20 million to bring back Mike Conley or Kyle Anderson, like, you're not just paying that salary to them, you're also paying, you know, maybe 40, 50 million dollars in luxury tax payments. That's the biggest part of this whole luxury tax in the second apron, is the fact that these owners need to pay not just a luxury tax payment, but a massive one. It's those type of teeth in this new collective bargaining agreement that have showed us very rich teams already, like the Clippers and the Warriors, already making huge cost-cutting moves, you know, in an effort to just to save money. And that's the Clippers and the Warriors. I mean, I'm sure A-Rod and Laurie are very rich, but I don't think they're Steve Ballmer rich. And Ballmer dumped Eric Gordon's salary this summer, functionally, kind of to a rival, just to save what would have been tons and tons of money in luxury tax payments. So anyway, Ant making All-NBA this season would be a pretty major salary cap issue for this team next season. But right now, if that doesn't happen, you can kind of make that work, knowing you just need to know that if you are going to bring back Mike Conley or Kyle Anderson, you're into the second apron. regardless, provided, you don't make some other sort of cost-cutting trade, salary dump trade. That's kind of the deal, is you can stay under the second apron, provided you let Conley, Anderson, Troy Brown, Jordan McLaughlin all walk. So let's recap this. McDaniels' number came in lower than expected, which I think dispels some of the notion of someone needs to be traded. One of the main guys need to be traded. I don't think that narrative has a whole lot of like economic truth to it. Someone very well may get traded in the next 9 months or so, but to say they need to get traded to avoid the second apron, that's not true. We just went through that. We know this team is for sure going to be over the salary cap. Next year, we know they'll for sure be over the luxury tax. Those things are a lock, but the number they're trying to skirt is that second apron number, about $190 million in total salary, which they can do if they let Mike Conley, Kyle Anderson, and Troy Brown Jr. walk in free agency next summer, provided they replace them all with minimum contracts. That's not a great proposition, but it's a possible way to live underneath the second apron. However, that plan hits a snare if Ant makes All-NBA, because his contract jumps up by like $45 million, $7 million for next year, and you are in the luxury tax's second apron. So I tried to do that in under 10 minutes. I did it in 11. But that's where the Wolves are at right now from a salary cap standpoint. From my looking at it, I do think it's big that Jaden number came in starting at 22.5. I was thinking more like 27. So it's a win that it gives them some flexibility here. More problems to come or more things to navigate in the future. But for now, this team can proceed as currently constructed. Thanks for listening.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down,